Welcome to this tutorial about HexManiac Advance. Today we're going to be looking at how to edit text with HexManiac Advance. However, since this is the first tutorial, first we'll go over some basics about the app. Whenever I open a ROM with HexManiac Advance, you'll notice one of the first things that changes is this new file called firered.toml that was created next to my firered GBA file. This is the metadata for HexManiac Advance. If it doesn't find any, it will create it. But it's useful whenever you make a backup of your ROM to also make a backup of the metadata. That way you can make sure to keep them in sync. After the creation of that file, you'll notice that everything loaded up with two panels. There's a hex content panel on the right and a tools panel on the left. The hex content mostly shows bytes that are valued from 00 to FF, but occasionally you'll also notice some decorations, like colored text, these pointer values, or the little blue hat right here. The short way to understand this is that if HexManiac Advance can interpret your data, it will do so and give you a more useful thing to see other than just the raw bytes. If you want to see the raw bytes, you can click on it and you'll still see the raw bytes in the corner, just like you'll see the address in the other corner. Let's go ahead and follow this pointer by double-clicking it. You'll notice that this data is formatted as well, but more importantly, there is this anchor in the upper left-hand corner, that little blue hat that I mentioned before. If I right-click that, it will give me a list of all the locations that point to where I am right now. Anytime where you have data in the ROM, it'll almost always have a pointer pointing to it, so we can use those little hats as guides to know what's going on inside the file. Now that we understand that, let's go ahead and take a quick look at what we might want to do for text editing. This is basically the second screen of text that you see when you're running the game. And what we'd like to do is change this attacked by wild creatures to attacked by vicious creatures. You'll probably want to do larger text edits than that yourself, but this will be a good example to show us how to deal with making text longer and how to deal with line wrapping. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and try to search for this text. Control F to bring up find. Attacked by wild creatures. It only found one match, which is good. Found one match, attacked by wild creatures. And it didn't really show us any kind of format here. If we scroll up, we'll see that there's some formatted text here. And if we scroll down, we'll see there's some formatted text here. So this is probably text, especially since we were searching for text. So let's go ahead and right-click and display as text. Sometimes the editor is smart enough to be able to find the text automatically. But in other cases like this, we actually had to help it out a little bit. But now that we've done it, you'll notice that there is an anchor at the beginning of the text, and the text does view correctly in the tool whenever you click on it. Now that we have it in the tool, we can see the word wild that we wanted from before, and we can change it if we want to. We said we want to change it to vicious creatures, so let's do that. But the word vicious is longer than the word wild, so we won't be able to store it in the same place it is now, because we can see that there's other data directly afterwards that we don't want to interrupt. But don't worry. As soon as we start typing and the words get too long, the text will automatically move itself to a new location. It gives us a warning about where it moved it to. The pointers were updated. We can right-click and still see where that original pointer is, and everything still works the way that you would expect. Now that we know that we were able to edit the text correctly, let's start worrying about the line wraps. We know that we want to have a line wrap after vicious, so we'll put a slash in there, and no, we don't want to have one after creatures. So let's remove the slash in there. But now this line is too long, and we can see because it's wider than the text box. So let's go ahead and add a line wrap right here. That looks about right. Let's go ahead and save it by pressing Control S, and go ahead and open our file to see what we have changed. So here's that same text again. Notice that we now take up one extra line by having pushing on the last line, but we were able to get everything to wrap correctly by putting in those slash ins. And we changed the word wild to the word vicious, which is what we originally wanted. By viewing it in the game, we can recognize that all the pointers were in fact updated correctly, and it's okay to trust the tool with small things like that. Text isn't the only thing that HexManiac can repoint for you.
Most of the time, if you make data larger than it was originally, HexManiac Advance is smart enough to be able to understand that it needs to repoint the data and will do so for you automatically and notify you when it's done. This concludes this mini tutorial about HexManiac Advance with text editing, along with a general overview of the application. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments section, or you can reach me on Discord. Link in the description. Thank you and have a nice day.